It's important to consider how technology alters, changes, or mediates social relations. Studying mediated communications is relatively new. The Toronto School of Communication has been impactful in the beginnings of this study. When we think about culture and communication, it's important to note the different ways that this has transitioned in different kinds of societies and the different kinds of technologies used. An oral society versus a literate society versus one that has metal type versus one that has media, they're all going to look very different. Fundamentally, the medium of communication is going to impact the message and how that message is understood. It's going to impact how we think. Innes developed the term media bias. This refers to the power of media to transform human affairs. Innes distinguishes between time bias and space bias. Pre-literate or oral societies value time bias. These are communities that center community building. Space bias occurs in more modern societies in which imperialism and commerce are more valued. In this case, information needs to travel quickly. Obviously, if we look at the way that Innes is referring to these terms, there's some things embedded in it that are somewhat problematic, but it's still a good jumping off place to start talking about media and technology. A key example of the way a communication technology can evince social change is the telephone. For one, the telephone has changed the way we communicate in relationships, the way we do business, really all aspects of our social life. One critical example is social accessibility. Telephones made people who were previously inaccessible far more accessible, whether it's reaching out to a person in local government or a relative on the other side of the world. Telephones change with whom we can communicate and how easily we could do so. Today, phones aren't just phones. They're communication devices of a whole other order, and we can really describe young people today as chronically online. The difference between digital natives and digital immigrants are digital immigrants came to the online world later in life, whereas digital natives grew up with it. Today, the majority of Americans use the internet and many people, most young people, on a daily basis. This is a significant change, not only in how we get our information, but also in what it opens us up to in terms of advertising. It's impossible to not discuss the impact of social media on our lives. In many ways, social media is coming to displace other traditional forms of communication, and more of our social world is at least in part taking place online. A couple of examples include our presentation of self. More and more, we use social media to display our virtual self, and we're expected to promote a display that's consistent with how people see us. Another example are friendships. What exactly does a friendship mean? Is the social media friendship the same as one that happens more in the real? Can we be friends with people we've never actually met in person? More and more, we're also doing a lot of personal comparison, or what's called social comparison, and also seeking a feedback from those around us to make sure that we're, socially acceptable, socially normative. It goes along with our presentation of self. Dating. More and more, we not only display our relationships online through social media, but we also maybe even meet the person that we're dating online. All of the problems of relationships now can happen in that online world, whether it's cyberstalking, ghosting, or any of the other things that might go wrong. All these things often take place through the digital environment. When you lose someone that's close to you, more and more we're performing or we're experiencing communal mourning in online spaces. Whether it's posting in memorial profiles, reaching out to people online, increasingly, that's where we go to reach out to others in these times where we're... Not surprisingly, many of the same problems that happen in the real social world also happen online. Since many of the people online are younger, we do see cyberbullying. Cyberbullying refers to behavior that is willful. It's under the control of the person doing it. It's repeated. It's not something that happens once. It's ongoing behavior. It's harmful to the person, and it's taking place in the electronic format. When we think about cyberbullying, we can think of all of our typical bullying behaviors, but they're taking place online. Things like exclusion, trolling, flaming, harassment, stalking, impersonation, gossip, threats, outing somebody's personal information, or trickery. Any of these or many other behaviors could be considered cyberbullying. Just like in regular bullying, we have people in different roles or different positions. We have the perpetrators, the people doing the bullying. We have the victim, the person who's the target of the harassment or the bullying. And we have the bystanders, the people who may be witness to the bullying, who may or may not intervene. Campbell groups bystanders into 4 categories: outsiders, those who try to remain uninvolved; reinforcers, those whose behaviors reinforce the behavior of the perpetrators, but they aren't directly assisting them; assistants, those who join in some way with the harmful behavior; and defenders, those who take the side of the victim or stand up for them. It's estimated that as many as 20% of people experience some form of cyberbullying, and sometimes people don't even recognize bullying. They might describe it as drama or tension, when really what's happening is bullying. Cyberbullying can have serious negative mental and physical health impacts. It's also important to consider how things like bullying reinforce existing relations of power and privilege. In what ways is the existing social order being reproduced when we look at bullying behavior, and what can we do to interrupt that behavior? Thanks for watching.